Blevins here with an overview of the final day of week 4 and the first day of week 5. I'll say right now the title of the video, Best Day of Squats Ever, is referring to the second day in the video. This day here that you see, one, the camera is kind of angled here. I actually noticed this and fixed it the next day, but I was really able to solidify some of my form on this day, but it really comes together on the next workout that you'll see. Really what I've been working on is having a more forward lean at the beginning of the squat movement, and then still breaking at the hips and pushing back while keeping my shins a little bit more vertical. Now, I had mentioned this before in another video and it had some comments put in just asking more clarifying questions about that, and here's what I mean. When I say I'm trying to keep my shins more vertical, it doesn't mean I'm trying to keep them completely vertical so as to take the quads out of the squat. I think I'm a quad dominant squatter, and I actually benefit the most from that. However, I should still get as much as I can out of my posterior chain and my hips, and I can let my knees go too far forward. So for me, keeping my shins more vertical actually ends up looking like this, which is a substantial amount of knee bend. So to be more precise, I'm trying to keep my shins more vertical than I was, but not completely vertical as though I was doing some sort of geared squat or something like that where I'm sitting completely back and really good morning the weight. Now with the camera kind of angled like this, it is a little difficult to see where depth is on this day, but the weights were moving very well, especially for sets of 5. I would put most of these sets at maybe a top RPE 7. They moved very well and really seemed to move a little bit better throughout the day. I've been getting more comfortable with squatting as this training cycle's been going on, and really now at this point with the low 500s, I'm able to do sets of 5, sets of 5, sets of 6 pretty easily at very low RPEs, which is encouraging to me because it's allowing me to amass a lot more volume. On that note, I wanted to mention there's a podcast out on Lane Norton's channel. He's talking with Dr. Mike Zordos, and they're talking about how volume is the greatest contributing factor to muscle growth as well as strength increases. Now, probably those strength increases are due to the muscle growth that accompanies it, because of the additional cross-sectional area of the muscle being able to produce more force, or rather tension upon the bones to produce more force. I don't know how you would say that scientifically. In any case, the point is it's volume, but it's not necessarily muscle damage. And what that means is you don't always want to take your sets to failure. The reason for that is when you take a set to failure to an RPE 10, you cause a lot more muscle damage than you would if you took it, say, to an RPE 7 with the same weight. And let's say you can do a set of 12 with 380 pounds on the squat. Well, if instead of doing a set of 12 at an RPE 10 with 380 and then drop setting, or lowering the reps rather, because you got to do 3 or 4 sets, you do your first set at 12, you wait like 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can only do 8. Then you wait 5 to 10 more minutes and you can only do 6, and you wait 5 to 10 more minutes and you only do like 5 or something like that. You really haven't done that much volume. Where if instead you had done 5 or 6 sets of 7 at an RPE 7 instead of the first set of 12 at RPE 10, over those 5 to 6 sets that you do at a lower RPE, you can amass more volume while causing less muscular disruption. And that's the way to have long-term success. I'd had a subscriber kind of ask, why do you stay away from failure in your training? And the reason why is so that I can amass more training volume while keeping my muscular disruption and fatigue at its lowest possible state. Here you'll see some deadlift singles. I want to mention these briefly. One of the things that I'm cueing and have been working on is getting my shoulders a little bit more over the bar and using a little bit more back, as well as spreading the floor at the same time with the sumo. This makes a much cleaner form. These look pretty good as far as I'm concerned, and my form is fairly consistent. I'm taking 20, 25 seconds maybe in between each of these reps, just enough time really to walk away and then come back to the bar. These moved very well, though my hips were a little tight from some of the squatting that I had done. This really moved pretty well on this day. And again, this is squats, that bench press that you saw, and then these deadlifts all on the same day. Additionally, on sumo deadlifts, I am trying to keep my shins completely vertical at the beginning of the lift. This is so my knees are out of the way. Now, I might have a slight forward lean in my shins, but not very much. And really, I'm able to get to that position, one, because I'm getting my shoulders over the bar at the start of the lift, where the bar, if you ran up the back of my triceps, the middle of the bar is right where that back of my tricep kind of attaches into my shoulder and my lat. And I have a little bit higher hip position to get my shoulders over the bar, which allows for that vertical shin position. For me and my leverages, this works by far the best, much better than a conventional deadlift. And I'm hoping that this form will really hold up well and allow me to pull some good weight come nationals. I don't have any numbers predictions yet. It's way too far out for me to make those. And really, you don't know if you're going to have a good day or a bad day until the meet day rolls around. In any case, I finished up on this day with some close grip bench sets of 4. These felt pretty good. Those I'm watching it here, I'm flaring my elbows out in the bottom of the lift a little too fast. I should tuck them a little bit more and keep the elbow as much as I can right underneath my wrist. You really want to stack your wrist over your elbow. And you really want the bar not to be too far away from your shoulder. So you're really trying to stack everything on top of each other. With close grip, that's difficult because your arms are so close. To keep a vertical forearm angle, you have to touch a little bit lower. And this is a lot of this is going to be dependent on arm length. You know, the more close you're going to go on your grip, the further away from your shoulder you're going to have to get. So unless you can get a really good arch, it's hard to do this. Now this last rep here, I got a really good breath and had a lot of tightness through my lats. And that last rep really moved well. Now here is the best squat session that I have ever had. And I say that in reference to form, not in reference to the amount of weight. I didn't max or anything on this day. But this was by far the best squatting that I've ever done. This first rep, not so great. It's just my last warm-up. There was some shakiness in the bar path as I was trying to figure out where I should, work from. After watching this set, I really got my form dialed in. And what I noticed was I was standing just slightly too upright at the beginning of the lift, and I was initiating the lift on that first rep, especially with both my hips and my knees at the same time. I corrected to do hips first, which is a much better cue for me. And look at my shin angle. Even compared to the previous week, my shin angle was much better on this day. I also noticed, though, that I am filming a little bit behind my center, and so it makes it look as though the bar path is moving forward, when in reality I don't think it was really leaning forward. So I adjusted the camera to be exactly parallel, or I should say perpendicular from the bar, and watch the bar path on these sets, all 3 of the ones that are going to follow. This is the best bar path I've ever had, and it was also the best feeling reps of squats that I've ever done. You see how fast that first rep moved. Really, these were all RPE 6, maybe 6.5, maybe 7 on a few of the reps, but honestly, when I got my breathing squared away and I hit the bar path correctly, which I did most on the last rep of all these sets, I really got a good breath in for the last rep and focused. It was really easy. I mean, there's no real bar speed difference from the first rep to the last rep. Maybe some slight slowing. Now, I did take some more rest on these than I usually do. I was probably in about, I would say, 6 to 8 minutes of rest in between these sets, but really so I could focus on form and be recovered enough to work this, because I need to get this form dialed in so that I can recreate it every time I squat. I definitely think that this squat form can take me to some higher numbers than I've squatted before, but I'm still getting used to the start position. It's actually the setup when I'm standing after I brought the bar out of the rack that I have the most trouble, because I have to get a breath in with that forward lean, and I'm still getting used to how my lower back should be angled. If I relax just a slight amount, I arch too much, and I go into hyperextension. And when I do that, not only am I going to have a posterior pelvic tilt issue when I go down to the hole, it also puts a lot of strain on the bottom vertebrae right above, I think it's the coaxial or something, that group of bones, the tailbone pretty much. I get a lot of pressure in there, but this form right here, this bar path, is the best bar path I've ever had on squats. It's right over the middle of my foot, and these felt amazing. Just really good reps. This is the last rep here. Easy reps. Now I've got to get depth dialed in with that new form as well, but it felt very good. Here you see this was actually a rep PR. I hadn't counted 7s before. but it's fairly close. I think I've done 405 for 6 for 1 rep, and to have 4 sets of 7 at 370 at RPE 8 was pretty darn good for me. To have these repeats of these high rep sets is really difficult for me to recover from. I still took probably 5 to 7 minutes of rest in between each of these sets, but it really got me fresh for the next one. You'll notice I paused the first rep with a fast pause. I'll do touch and go for all the reps in between, and then pause, a really good pause on the last rep. Honestly, the last rep, when I do that longer pause, is almost easier. When I can rest it on my chest instead of a light touch and go pause, I think I actually do better. And this day, weight moved really well. I've been looking at this and working with my coach on, when to back off if any of these percentages are too high, but so far I just have not run into any walls yet. The only RPE 10s that I've had is because I was working with some timed rest periods. Now, as you notice on this, I did a side angle. Look at the position of the barbell relative to my shoulder. Even though I'm keeping my forearms vertical, I am still keeping the bar, even when it's on my chest, relatively close to my shoulder. You do not want to get that barbell very far away laterally from your shoulder, or it's going to be very hard to reverse out of the bottom position. Likewise, you don't want the bar to come back too far over your face, because then you have to pull the bar back down towards your belly button. When I got to floor press, I was just crushing it. I had done 315 on the weeks previously to this, but things just felt really good on this day. I did 315 for the first set of 3 and then moved up to 335. This here is my last set. I just kind of started playing around at the end of this one because the bar felt so light. I was not even at an RPE 6 when I reached really the last rep. It was so easy. It just felt effortless. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I got a really good breath on the last rep, and you see this when I just kind of jiggle it around as I push the bar up because it was so easy. It was just kind of funny. And then finished out with 11 anyways. And it's still, this maybe got me up to an RPE 8 after all that goofiness. Maybe not even an RPE 8. Just a fun day. It's great when you go into the gym, and it feels good. Now, I had a subscriber write in one of those kind of theological questions. First name is Taylor. And they asked about what powerlifting, what impact that has with my Christian life, or how they tie together. And I think this comes out, and they mentioned in their question, that powerlifting can often be a very selfish, self-focused endeavor. People do it because they love it. They love competing, or they love, something about the sport for them. And that can be true. You can enjoy powerlifting. There's nothing that says when you're doing something that is, associated with your Christianity that it has to be terrible or you have to hate it. And that's not what the Taylor was saying anyways, but I'm just putting that out there. Christianity is not all about just hating your life and doing things you don't want to do. You do the things that you do as a Christian because you love God. You serve God willingly. It's not out of compulsion or out of obligation. It's out of thankfulness and gratitude, if in fact you believe. If you've had someone save you, then you are thankful to them. That's how Christians should see it, in my opinion. That said, the way that powerlifting correlates to Christianity is because I have tried, through powerlifting, to help others. Instructional videos that I have made, or information that I put out, is to help people. I don't receive a ton for that. I throw advertising up there. If any of you are interested in knowing, I probably make like 70 cents a day. The literally hundreds, probably thousands of hours of video editing. If I had done almost anything else, I could have worked at any fast food chain. I could have done anything else with that time and made more money. This is a labor of love, not some sort of endeavor to make a ton of money. That's not what I'm in it for. The reason why I share the information is I appreciated the information myself and wanted to give that back to others. Likewise, I try to put in some devotional thoughts. I'm not overly preachy. I try not to be overly preachy. This is not a Bible channel. There are plenty of those out there. I may think about doing some preaching at some time, but that's not what this has really been about. It's more about sharing how powerlifting and my Christian life do come together. And you learn an awful lot of skills through any sort of physical endeavor that takes discipline, that you have to invest time in and effort in before you see results. You can form a lot of character through physical endeavors. even this may be the best example. I'll just give one because I could talk for a long time on the subject. But let's say you're in a relationship. You have either a spouse or a girlfriend or boyfriend, something, and you're getting in a fight. And you feel that pressure. You're starting to trigger each other. You're starting to push each other's buttons, and you're really getting activated. You're getting triggered. Your blood pressure is starting to rise. Your heart rate is increasing. Your sympathetic nervous system is activating. You're getting into that fight or flight thing where you're just about to you know, go at each other in an all-out fight, whether it's verbal or otherwise. That is the same type of panic response that I experience when I'm under an extremely heavy load. When I'm under a really heavy squat that I've never squatted before, or I'm coming out with a large bench press over the top of me, there's the option to panic, to give in to instinct, to start squirming on the bench press, to break form in a squat, to do something totally different that you've never done in training, that you haven't practiced before, to break form out of fear. Now that same temptation to break form out of fear is the same temptation that you have when you're getting in an argument with someone. You're afraid of something. Maybe you're afraid of them leaving you. Maybe you're afraid because you feel they're taking away the honor or respect or position you think you have. You feel dissed. You feel disrespected. You feel like somebody has stolen something from you. You feel insecure, and so you react. You react out of instinct. You get triggered and you turn almost into an animal because you're not thinking. You're not rational. You're not living above your circumstances, but you're lowering yourself to another level. Those are very similar in my mind. And learning the skill to maintain your calm, keep your cool, to stick to the plan, to not let your form break down, but to perform what you have practiced yourself into, what you have taught yourself in lifting, is very similar to the same type of keeping your cool, practice, listening to the other, learning where their position is. When somebody comes at you, trying to empathize and sympathize with their situation rather than react against it. Learning how to do that is just as hard as squatting 600 pounds or deadlifting 700 or bench pressing 500. In fact, I would say holding the emotions back is even more difficult. That's one area in which I've seen some carryover, and I'll cover some more in the next few videos. But that was one of the thoughts that I had. If any of you have any more questions or thoughts about that answer to that question, go ahead and put them in the comments below. And if you've hung in the video this long, congratulations to you. You can write something at the end of, hey, make shorter videos or something like that if you made it to the end. In any case, I hope wherever you're at, you're doing well. Blessings.